Yeah, inmendham video. This is a lot of people left a link to this piece of crap by Dr. Evil and his mini-me egg. And somehow everybody should pay attention. I sort of don't get how, like, a bunch of people who are anti-natalist apparently watch his videos to pay attention to this crap and even know about this crap. And but I guess I sort of see it. Sam Harris, Benatari, Mendham, he did put it in the title, so I suppose I understand. You're not watching it because you want to, okay? But it does seem like how popularity is really built out of how many people you can antagonize is kind of good for you, you know, which is probably not how the world should work. But anyway, so let's see what Dr. Evil has to say about how we must be fruitful and multiply so we can keep dying over and over again and living futile and totally stupid adventures in our little fake narrative of how I'm really cool and you're bald and stupid. I mean, what's the point? We know it's all subjective, like there's no reality to our self-image. Our self-image is completely separate from any kind of, like, truth. And if we really took the average human being, if I could actually make an average human being, you probably wouldn't invite him over for dinner. And that's the truth. You would find him fat and stupid and a lot of things, because that's what the average is. And so why are you supporting something that on average really doesn't turn out that well? The average death is nothing to give that to your kid as a birthday present. Okay, I'm not going to give you the lucky death or the unlucky death. I'm just going to give you the average death. And here it is as a present. Okay, you're going to go through this, that, and that, and that for 3 months or whatever. And it's going to be all quite tubey and jabby and really unpleasant. Aren't you going to thank me? Aren't I cool? No, you're an idiot. But anyway, let's play the whatever, the propaganda. I better speed it up or I'll never get through this crap. 22 minutes. Oh. Ew. Anyway, we'll speed it up a little bit anyway. No unfairness intended.
À bas le ciel.
Ah! I mean, you know, go ahead. It's all right. Yes, I always think that people who have really something interesting to say put really incomprehensible gibberish on the title of their book. It's the perfect way to have a very simple and logical book. Should have a silly title.
I emphasize that you're starting from a blank canvas.
Your mini-me, you know, I know it's supposed to be like a microphone, but it sucks. So irony is, you know, it sucks. But it really is like a little, it's got a little fetus. A little mini-me fetus. I keep petting it and stroking it and watering it, but it doesn't hatch. There's no mini-me yet.
I emphasize the meaninglessness of the exercise, and yet something meaningful arises from it. That we
Yes, right. Meaningful in what way? In some subjective way where I want the Dodgers to win the World Series. I want, and it all has to do with just an artificial addiction. We all have our little addictions, our little comfort zones, our little comfort medications, our little comfort bullshit, and it's all just addiction, and you're really just saying, let's make more addicts so they can stupidly play with their addictive substances and march to their little silly bang into the wall life and then get killed. I mean, why would you sentence a robot to this stupidity? I mean, it's so stupid you wouldn't even make a robot that does this. Really, would you make a robot to live out the average human life and say, gee, I did a great job, didn't I? But somehow, just because it has this life thing, you know, you have some obligation to lay eggs, let them hatch, throw a couple out of the nest, you know, watch the rest of them struggle to live, they get cancer and die. I mean, what are you doing? What are you arguing here? Be an idiot, like me.
cannot evaluate in terms of this phony pain-pleasure calculus.
And again, it's not just about a pain-pleasure calculus. It's about recognizing that there is a product, you're basically purchasing it. It comes at a price. And you just have to recognize, well, is it worth paying for? Is it something that's actually going to, in some way, do something that it solves a problem? Because that's worth paying for. Solving a problem is worth paying for. Does making people solve a problem? Well, the only thing it solves is your delusion of a necessity. There's no actual thing in the world that the living things fix. They don't make something feel better. They don't like make the Martians. It doesn't make the Martians feel better to have Earthlings. You know, you could sort of make an argument maybe it would be worth having something if it made something better. But if it doesn't make something better, then why are you doing it? Because it obviously comes at a price, and you're just pretending it's free. You just want to keep saying it's all free lunch. And it's not free lunch. It's paid for. And the payment isn't voluntary. You just decide to make some people that'll live a shitty life and be resentful and say, fuck you, what did you get me into this shit for? I mean, I'm sure there's lots of people who died young in World War II and never even got laid, never had a life, and were killed really badly. And if they could give their testimony, they would say, fuck you, cunts. I mean, what? I pay the total price, you don't pay shit price. Okay? What the fuck? That wasn't a very fair deal. Fuck you for doing this to me. What right did you have? I pay for your pleasure? Fuck you. You don't get that? You don't get that you don't have a right to draw the straws and stick them in pockets and say, man, yeah, too bad. You're the one who's going to have to. You're going to have to be the road, the asphalt. You're going to have to be the welcome mat. You're going to have to be the thing that gets abused. Too bad. That's just the way it works out. Haha. Because I'm worth it. Mini-me's worth it. Now, I don't think either one of you are worth it. You really don't have a right. I'm offended by your statement that you somehow have a right to play with my destiny this way. Okay, to play this game where you're just going to roll crap dice and say, there's your life, asshole. I don't want to wake up and look at you. No.
What does it mean to apply the pain-pleasure calculus to any of these things? To apply it to...
It means you're rational. Okay, when you do the risk aversion thing, when you do the, well, am I really being kind of offensively aggressive here in imposing on something? I mean, I am imposing. I'm definitely making a decision for them, okay, that they'll have to deal with it. I can't feel their pain. I can't take it away if it happens. I don't have control over any of this stuff. So that's pretty aggressive. I mean, when you force somebody into a winter storm and say, go walk through the storm and survive. I mean, that's sort of aggressive when they didn't ask for any of it.
Thousands of hours studying Chinese to say, oh, well, is there more pleasure than there is pain? It's meaningless.
It's not meaningless, and it's a real equation you do. If somebody said to learn Chinese, you're going to have to sacrifice, you're going to have 10 years knocked off your life. Somebody could argue to somebody, look, if I could guarantee you, okay, that you're not going to get lucky, and that it's a fact that you'll live 10 years longer, a fact that you'll live 10 years longer if you become a vegetarian. How many people do you think would become a vegetarian if I did have an actual crystal ball and I could show you them two alternative lives where they have 3 years retirement or 13 years retirement? And I could show it to them. They see their grandkids and they get to play with them, do all these little adventures, and in the other case, none of that happens because you were, you couldn't modify your consumption. If I could show people the two realities, you know they would choose the rational one. If I could show you the destiny of your kids and show you that it didn't work out at all, then you wouldn't have them. So clearly you're just taking the risk because it's an uncertainty what's happening and you're assuming it's going to be all right. And that's the only reason you're taking the risk, is because you have an optimism bias that's saying it's going to work out okay. You're not thinking about the worst case scenario, you're thinking about the best case scenario. And it's a clear economic decision. And the only way you're making this stupid decision is because when you buy the thing that says bullshit on it or whatever, fun life stuff, you're pretending that every bottle is fun life stuff, that's what's actually in the bottle. And there's no cyanide in the bottle. You wouldn't buy it if you knew there was cyanide in it. That half the time you pick up the bottle, it turns to shit, and you pour it out and it's shit, how many times would you buy milk if 50% of the time you paid for the milk, you pour it out and it's dog shit? Would you pay the price? No.
It's a categorical error. You're putting something in the wrong category.
No, it's perfectly rational to put it in any category. It's going to be in the category. And the category is worth the price and worth the imposition, and do I have enough confidence that I am certain of the realities of the universe that I know this is going to be the right decision. I'm making a decision for somebody else. I'm taking their money and I'm going to Las Vegas. Now, if you don't have more than a 50-50 notion in your head that you're going to win, if you're not sure you're going to win, wouldn't you call that insanely irresponsible? To sit there and be that arrogant, I'm just going to gamble with somebody? So you think you're so perceptive of how the universe works that you're certain you're doing the right thing by imposing on somebody else. You don't see how fucking arrogant that is? Then you're really fucking stupid. Dumber than your egg.
This is not like BDSM. This is not something we can look at how much pain is caused versus how much pleasure.
BDSM, what the fuck is that? Is some sort of butt sex you have? You put mini-me in your butt, you tie him to a string so you can get him back out again.
And come to a conclusion. The merit or value of studying Chinese is not going to be quantified in this way.
Well, I'm saying, of course it will be if you make a rational comparison and you put enough prickers on the real bush. You know, if you put enough lime ticks in the scenario, if you put enough reality, if you're going to make an argument that, oh, I got pinched 6 times. Was it worth getting pinched 6 times to make a video? Look, I made a dramatic video where I pointed out an issue and I pinched myself 6 times. Was it worth it for making a point? I mean, obviously those kind of comparisons are going to be totally meaningless. But if I point the knife and make the knife really sharp and I start sticking it in your nutsack, you're going to appreciate that maybe there is something real here to be considered. You're not going to be talking about something arbitrary and who really could care because there's no real harm done. But if I'm doing real harm, I got a real hammer in my hand and little mini-me is right, you know, maybe you could think a little straighter. That there's a real economy in the world and their suffering and the torture is real. It's not imaginary or fake. Well, it's imaginary in the sense it happens in brains, but it's a real negative phenomenon, and you're just saying, I don't care, too complicated, I don't want to have to take responsibility for being an arrogant cunt. That's all you're doing. You're just singing a little bullshit song of, I'm entitled to make decisions for other animals and creatures. I'm godlike. No, you're not. You're just a stupid machine with stupid programs that thinks first there's some purpose, which there isn't, and that you somehow have the right to impose it, which there isn't any such right in any rational sense. You're not God. You're not all-knowing. You're not superior in your perception of reality. Why do you get to trump my right to say, no mas, I don't play stupid? Okay? You don't have a right to keep dragging me back to stupid.
The merit or value of going and doing humanitarian work, for whom are you even going to add up the pain and pleasure? It makes no sense. Part of this delusion stems...
So again, it's just an insanely false premise. Everything, okay, comes with cost and benefit. Everything. So it's just silly to say that's not what we're basically doing, is measuring cost to benefits. And the rational point is are you measuring subjective cost to benefits versus objective cost to benefits? That is real world consequences, real universe consequences versus what happens to me. Do my nuts get crushed? And that's all you're doing. You're just saying because my nuts aren't on the line, some other assholes are, I can take chances. Fuck you.
Starting from the deep-seated assumption that the meaning of life is pleasure, and that suffering is something so terrible that...
No, that's so again a wrong assumption. The point is that we know there is value to torture. It's a negative value. And the positive value of pleasure, well, it's negotiable in the sense that somebody can argue that 90% of our pleasures at least are clearly being lucky enough not to have something bad happen to you. So it's being free of pain that is pleasurable. Being free of need, want, desire, unsatisfied, cold, bad conditions, obnoxious sensations is clearly what makes life fun. So clearly that's why people do drugs, is to be relieved of their obnoxious sensations. It's quite obvious. It's a very powerful motivator. So to pretend that that isn't really the equation is just preposterously, insanely disconnected from anything I can understand as reality. So yes, you have, in my opinion, broken reality to play this stupid economic game that you don't have to worry about the economics. It's not relevant. It's perfectly relevant. What do you have? What are you? Where are you? When are you allowed to risk torture? Is the question. As the consequence, torture you can't clean up, you can't undo. You're just going to torture something for some pleasure, for some ambition, not to satisfy, not to cure your cancer. You're not going to torture something to cure your cancer. You're going to torture something to indulge a notion in your head. I mean, please. It's disgusting behavior.
It negates any possible or actual meaning in life.
So here's an example.
Yes, there's no overriding meaning to life. It's just idiotic to think it is. So we have to observe life and say, well, can we make this into something that the universe needs? Like if it doesn't exist, somehow the universe will be diminished in some way. And the only way you can make that argument is to create some fake God who will be disappointed. Some fake entity who exists when we don't exist and would say, oh, they don't exist, I'm all sad, boo-hoo. That's the only way you can make this rational, and that's clearly a fable. And you're saying you'll risk torturing people in defense of your fable. You don't see how that's just so obnoxious.
Example. There's large parts of the universe that are uninhabited. There aren't beings there, certainly not sentient beings. And if we think about...
Yes, and this is an argument I made so many times too. So me and Benatar got to this answer, you know, independently, and it's just so clearly obvious that the surface of this pill bottle is not... oh, what a horror. There's no hoobies living on it. Oh my God, I'm so sad. All the hoobies are gone. They don't exist. Oh, what a tragedy. There's no hoobies having Christmas fun. Yeah, it would obviously be preposterous for me to create emotional reactions to that. It doesn't make any sense. I can't even fake it. I can't in any way... Oh, let's try... see if I can force the poo out. Can I force a sadness? Oh, the missing hoobies. No, I can't force it because it's irrational and stupid. And that's the truth about our existence. We're as meaningless as the non-existent hoobies. We're not magical. You're just addicted to your life, addicted to your kind, addicted to the things in your environment, and that addiction makes you incapable of seeing the world without its existence. Your addiction is an obsession, period. It's like I could make a rat addicted to heroin, and I could take away all the heroin, and the rat would be completely out of its mind, distraught. Not because it knows heroin is a good thing, it's because it's addicted to it. Shit, you're just so obviously stupid. You can't get that argument. It doesn't mean anything. That doesn't make any impact on you recognizing that why don't I get upset because there's no hoobies on every surface around me. The little mini-me egg isn't covered with hoobies and that somehow isn't a crisis to you. You're not panicking because there's no hoobies on the egg. Shit.
Those uninhabited parts of the universe. We're not filled with, and nor do I think we should be filled with remorse for the absent goods that there are there. So if we think about Mars, for example, where there could be Martians, but they aren't, we don't think, gee, think about all that pleasure that those absent Martians could have. Isn't that a terrible thing. We don't.
Right, and then rationally take it one step further. Let's say we put humans on Mars, right? So here we've constructed a fake circumstance. Okay, now we've invaded Mars, populated it with this human thing, and then the humans were tragically killed by a meteor or something. We would see this. Oh, this is some tragedy. We need to put the humans back here because they were forcibly removed by some natural or cataclysm, and we need to reclimate the universe back to its original condition. We would think that the humans being on Mars was some sort of pristine condition that needs to be preserved. We would fight for it like it's an underdog, okay, like it's some sort of thing that's being harshly and brutalized from the external world. And all of those thoughts are completely subjectively perverted, okay, by your own emotional problems, and has nothing to do with a fact or reasoning or logic. You're just being a stupid animal addicted to something. The notion that human is magical, wonderful, fantastic, and you have no empirical, rational evidence to defend that notion.
I don't think that at all. Whereas, if we think about the absence of, let's say, Martian wars, just like we have wars on Earth, and we think about the absence of all the suffering there, I think we say that's a pretty good thing. It's pretty good that they don't.
Yeah, no nuked Japs, dying of radiation sickness. 50 million people just disposed of in the prime of their lives, just disposed of in ugly, horrible ways, raped to death, all kinds of horrible things happened in the war. And then the war of just living a life, living a grunt life in the modern society where everything is just so tacky, so superficial, so artificial. Our lives have just absolutely no genuine purpose because we're just here to screw each other over, to steal money in some way. I mean, to steal value. It's just disgusting to marginalize. And you're saying there's some reason to force a kid to play that ugly game. This ugly game should be perpetuated. Why would you perpetuate this ugly a game? I wouldn't impose it on a robot. I wouldn't impose it on a horseshoe. I wouldn't impose it on anything. Well, except an asshole like you, maybe, if I could. Because you deserve it.
Have that there. That there's nothing like that on Mars. That's an advantage that Mars has over Earth.
But there's no one who doesn't have those harms.
Exactly. But
so yeah, this isn't the Sam Harris retard notion. Well, if nobody's dying, if cancer doesn't exist and nobody knows their cancer was a threat, then nobody knows they benefit from not having cancer. Yes, of course. Okay, yes, we killed smallpox. It can't get to you, can't threaten you, and so you can't imagine that your benefit. You don't appreciate it. But the benefit is real. It's still a fact that it's a lot better for you not to have smallpox than to have smallpox. So it's clearly a truth that you're benefiting from it, even if you don't appreciate it. Even if you don't sit here every day and say, gee, I'm so glad I don't have smallpox. You're still benefiting from it. I could sit here and say, I don't have malaria. I don't have cancer at the moment. At least I don't know I do. And I'm benefiting from that. I'm enjoying it, even though I don't know it. So how's there any difference? I don't have to derive some pleasure from something to actually be benefiting from it. I don't have to acknowledge it. I don't have to know about it. I don't have to think about it. I'm still benefiting from it.
I still think that it's a good thing that there's the absence of that suffering on Mars.
The idea of a numerical form of suffering is...
Okay, so again, he doesn't think we can obviously tell the difference between pinchy pinch, okay, and somebody slowly putting a nail through my eye. Of course, there's a numerical, there's a quantitative, qualitative difference between these different kinds of sensations. We clearly know we'd rather die in our sleep at night than to burn to death under a gas truck. Clearly we know the difference. Clearly we know the scale tips in insane ways if these different things happen to you. I can clearly describe things that will scare the fuck out of you if I say they're really on your going to happen to you, sucker. I could scare the shit out of you, and that's a fact. And you're just pretending, oh no, I don't know any of these things. I don't understand torture and suffering, and I know it doesn't really mean anything. Everything's the same thing. There's nothing to see here. There's no real gambling going on. Winning is the same as losing. No, it isn't.
Totally unreal. That's an abstraction, and it's an abstract comparison that is...
No, you're just insane. I'm sorry. I don't even know why I would have to respond to a video by an insane person. He can't tell the difference between a cupcake and a nail in your eye. You're retarded. You're so fucking retarded. Retards know the difference between a nail in their eye and a cupcake. They actually do. And you can't figure it out.
profoundly misleading in the same way that a monotheist paradise is, right? So there are people who say, this is, I'll use a very down-to-earth example here.
Oh, please, please, yes, give me a down-to-earth example of how one pain is the same as every other pain. Yes, please. Oh, that's not what he's going to do, is it?
You can talk to Jews, Christians, and Muslims who will say to you, well, yes, you may enjoy having sex outside of marriage. You may enjoy fornication in the strictest biblical sense of fornication. But what you don't realize is that this is really not very much pleasure, and it's going to involve a certain amount of suffering and sorrow and agony. And how can you possibly compare that to paradise in the afterlife? How?
Well, clearly, if you knew those were real things, right? If you really believed in paradise, forever bliss, and you thought that was really what you were risking by screwing the whore, I'm sure you would say, fuck yeah, don't screw whores, it'd be stupid. I'm sure you would recommend to your best friends when they're saying, I think I'm going to go screw a whore. And you'd be like, are you insane? You're going to be forever playing the best video games imaginable. Forever. I mean, forever. Gold all around you. Everything you could possibly want. All the Hooters. Just giant. The whole ceiling is Hooters. I mean, you're going to live in paradise. In like a little bubble of vaginas and Hooters. And here, you're going to compromise that to fuck a hooker? So again, another completely false comparison because it has to do with one thing that there's absolutely zero chance is true. That is paradise, heaven. Because even if the heaven thing exists, most people know the Bible doesn't say anything about my nuts and my penis. They're not going with me apparently, so why the fuck am I interested in going to heaven anyway? What am I going to do up there? Babysit or something? Fuck. Sounds like hell to me. I mean, this is so ironically stupid. Why are you even allowed to make videos? I mean, I know you block comments and all that stuff, but I mean, well, and the video itself, look, 23 thumbs up, 45 thumbs down. You're not winning, fella. I mean, even my numbers aren't that bad.
Can you compare that to what you're passing up? This imaginary afterlife, this heaven, and so on that ensues, without that much of a difference for Christians, Muslims, and Jews.
So his example is one that has nothing to do with reality, because we know that the Christian, Muslims, and Jews don't really believe in the fucking bullshit anyway. They just believe that people need to be controlled by a Borg of some kind, and they think this religious Borg is the best Borg around. So this doesn't have anything to do with anything like reality. It has nothing. You're going to talk about what people believe religiously, then you might as well just say, let's talk about anuses, and somehow anuses have something to do with, you know, how much you should feed a horse. I mean, it's just an idiotic, disconnected pile of rubbish. You're not even close to getting to the subject, which is imposition, value, and logic.
How can you destroy one for the other? I mean, but this is even more absurd because we're not making a comparison between Earth and an imaginary paradise. We're making a comparison between Earth and a nullity, an imaginary non...
Okay, so it's a nullity. So again, if you cure cancer, you didn't do anything of value. That's what he's arguing. Because somehow, because cancer doesn't exist anymore, you can't claim that you've fixed something that's broken because it's not broken anymore. It's this idiotic argument. It doesn't make any sense that somehow the absence of torture isn't a good thing, when we obviously know the absence of torture is a good thing. A cured torture, it's a good thing. It's just, you know, the fact that, well, anyway, I guess the argument's really a bit about the fact that there's nobody around to appreciate the absence of the torture. So again, it's the argument that if there was a bunch of rabbits or mini-me feeling eggs in space, and they were all being tormented, and I eliminated them, so they can't be tormented anymore, you would argue that torture somehow still exists? Clearly, I've undone a negative. Now, whether the little eggs were worth something is a separate argument. Whether the eggs needed to be in space or the little rabbits needed to be in space, because, you know, space rabbits are really important or something, that's a separate argument. The argument that the universe is a better place because there isn't tortured rabbits is just a fact. And now you need a fact yourself to explain why the benefit of no torture is trumped by the benefit of having the rabbits. Somehow you have to explain why the rabbits need to exist, that they're vital to some other torture being prevented. And if the rabbits don't exist, there'll be some other torture that will happen. That's sort of your obligation. You have to find a greater torture than the rabbits were experiencing for the rabbits to be a cure for. Just like you have to find a purpose for the human race that is more valuable in terms of the fact that we're preventing some kind of harm by being here. That we are controlling the universe in some way that prevents more torture than we cause. I know, it's 2 plus 2 equals 4. It's just too much for you, right?
Entity, which is life as it exists now on the surface of the moon.
Let's spend a moment on that. If I posit a kind of godlike paradise for all conscious beings, right? So there really is just, there's nothing wrong in the universe by anything that you can say is wrong. You know, like there's a little ache and pain over here, there's a little dissatisfaction over here. I will just cancel that by saying, no, those are moments where there's more pleasure flooding in there and more, even deeper sense of meaning, even deeper gratification of one's intellectual life. And these are beings who are far more competent than you and I are to judge the character of their experience. They've had 1 billion years to consider the matter, and they're still happy to be here. Imagine minds constituted like that. Why should we be...
So minds that he said they do have pain, but they don't have pain. So he was completely ambiguous about whether they have suffering. So it's like somehow they have some minor amount of suffering. And so now we're to pretend that we don't live in a biosphere where most of the mammal brains go through an extensive amount of suffering, and every single one of them gets some portion of it. It's not like any are immune. It's just that we dump a ton on some organisms and a lot less on these other organisms, but they all get a taste of it. So it's not like there's any real winners. and again, for some, he's saying there's some superiority intellectual notion. So he's this assumption we're supposed to believe a more intelligent organism is even more obsessed with singularities and magical purposes and religious purposes, where clearly the opposite is likely true, that the smarter you are, the more obvious it becomes that we evolved, that our whole biological mechanism is about consumption, reproduction, addiction, and cannibalism. Crap.
Indifferent to that and the primordial dial tone of non-existent.
See, I think what's dividing us here is the asymmetry, because if you think there is the asymmetry that I'm defending.
So I don't even know what a primordial bullshit thing was. What the hell was that anyway? Like the universe has a function. It doesn't have a function. It's not curing some other universe. This universe isn't doing anything important. Saturn's not doing anything important. The moon isn't doing anything. Nothing is doing anything to alleviate a brokenness somewhere. It's not fixing anything. That's the nature of everything in the universe. It's not here because it fixes something.
Then you'll say
improves it. You can't make a rational argument that life, or human life, improves the universe. You can't make a rational argument. All you can do is make made-up fantasy arguments about a disappointed God who would be crying because, oh, there's no humans. Or an insane human who would be going, oh, there's no hoobies on the surface of my bottle. No hoobies. Playing trunkles and funkunkles and clanging bang tangles and doom doongles. That's what an intelligence does with their neurons. They waste time trying to figure out, how can I pervert this subject to make worrying about hoobies make sense?
say, well, there's nothing bad in that Edenic life that you're speaking about, but there's also nothing bad in the situation of non-existence. So
yes, so he's basically saying, yes, if you're going to create a heaven, a perfect universe where nothing is ever tortured, just merely inconvenienced. Oh, my pen fell off the table and I have to go pick it up. Oh, that's so inconvenient. So they're only slowed down a little. They're never really stopped, you know, and certainly their nuts aren't hit with hammers. Right, yes. So make a preposterous comparison, has nothing to do with real life or the average human life or the average sentient life on Earth. The average sentient life on Earth is a child being murdered. That's the average sentient life on Earth. You're born, and before you get to maturation, you get killed, eaten alive. That's the average sentient life.
they're equal.
What's going on here invisibly for the antinatalists is actually a monotheistic, salvific.
Again, monotheistic. Again, what, you know, to turn it into a religion, something that is so clearly, simply logic. There's no dogma. There's just simply a recognition that the pain is really real, and the notions of purpose, we're doing something important. That's completely fallacious. That's the argument. The pain is real, the negative is real, the notions of accomplishment or purpose or function is completely subjective bullshit. That's a religion. When it's exactly the opposite.
Mode of thinking. The paradise of the antinatalists is the moon. It's the lifeless rocks on the surface of Mars. As surreal as that may.
It's, yes, the word paradise was silly from the beginning. The fact that there's something to fix in the universe is an idiotic notion. There's no Maytag appliances, so there's no need for the Maytag repairman. Remember those commercials? Not old enough for that. But anyway, yes, we're totally dysfunctional. There can be no function here. And so if you build something that has a negative component and it has no function, so you build a robot that just goes, ow, 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 that would be the definition of retarded, insane, cruel, preposterously stupid. And in essence, that's all we are. We're just some stupid thing that thinks they're winning because they avoid the whips. Okay, so we're slaves getting whipped by nature with a negative pain. And if we avoid enough pain, we feel like, hey, I am so far ahead in this game. I'm winning. I'm winning. And you're not really winning. Okay, yes, you're doing better than the losers, but you're nowhere near the winning circle. There is no winner's circle. So I guess that's the definition of it. Unlike your notions that there's some paradise or perfection or any of that crap, it's an imbecilic notion because the whole purpose of life is to be imperfected, all right, and try to get back to zero. That's the perfection. The perfection is the neutral of not being, I don't need a bigger car, and I don't need not to have cancer because I don't have it, and I don't need not to have malaria because I don't have it. It's the absence of the the absence of the whip, the absence of the infirmities. That is the win, idiot. The absence of the negative is clearly the positive.
And they're saying, compared to that standard, what we do here on Earth can never live up to it. So why paint a picture? Why study a language like Chinese? Why do humanity?
And why would you think any of the things that we do with passion, we do for any other reason than some addiction and need? We need to be successful. We need to be loved. We need friends. We need admiration. We're vain. We're all kinds of things. And we do those things to exercise our competitive nature and say, I'm worth it, I'm good, I'm cool, aren't I sexy, aren't I worth fucking? That's what we're doing. And if you think we're doing something else, again, you're preposterously retarded and completely dishonest. If you think you're in this game for any other purpose than to play the game competitively, then you're just denying a simple truth. But that's all you're doing. Don't pretend it's some logical purpose. that you're learning Chinese for some logical reason besides it satisfies my Jedi path. This is how I become a Jedi, is I learn how to speak Chinese. And then I'll have my, my light sword and my Chinese zapper sword. That's all you're thinking. You get something for it. You're not doing it because you don't get something for it. It gives you power in the game. It gives you a new tool. It's like playing a video game. It's like, ooh, I found the shotgun, so now I can shoot that fucker, because you can't kill him with a regular, Eagle 44. You have to get your shotgun, because you don't get killed unless you shoot him with a shotgun. So you're just finding your tools to play your little silly Jedi game. You're not doing something intelligent.
Work when it can't compare to this paradise they're holding up as an abstract comparison. But that comparison is
again, the paradise is merely the fact that you concede. This isn't a game about winning. It's a game about not losing. Ah, so that's how simple it is. Oh, yeah, it's a game about not losing. So why would I play a game about not losing when if I don't play the game, I guarantee myself victory? I don't lose. Oh, that's really cool, right? So all I have to do is convince you to understand that the only game you're playing on this tightrope is don't fall off. You're just playing the don't fall off game. There's no winning to walking the tightrope. There's only winning in not falling off, not getting cancer, not getting malaria, not getting humiliated, not being a fool, not being an asshole, not being neurotic and insane, and not being tortured in death many times over, dying more than once. These are the wins. Not dying more than one time. That's a big win. If I can avoid dying 5 or 6 times, that would be excellent. That's the win, idiot. So why walk the stupid tightrope? You can't win. All you're doing is risking losing. Oh, shit. What idiot goes to a gambling house where you roll the dice and all you're rolling for is having less skin peeled off of your body? So there's no dice that say skin gets put back on. There's only dice that say a lot of skin gets ripped off or a little skin gets ripped off. And you're going to that gambling house. You're that fucking retarded. You don't get to win. You go to the gambling house, let's make it even more real, and all you can do is lose money. And you're playing because you think, I'm going to get you only lose 4 cents. Oh, cool, I won you only lose 4 cents. But that's the gambling house. You don't have any potential to win. You're just going to lose less or lose more. That's it. That's all you're playing for. How much did I lose? And you're walking out all proud because, hey, look, I only lost $4. And you're saying I win. You're an idiot.
Utterly unreal. And in contrast to that, the value of this painting is actually something very real.
Alright, so he says the value of the subjective crapola is actually real. We have to believe that there's spiritual value to the artistic expression. Oh, woo, 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 bow to it. There's no paintings in the universe, therefore there must be human beings because there must be paintings of vaginas and such, or the universes fail. You can't understand how that argument is just insanely stupid.
À bas le ciel.
I don't know what the hell that was, but it's disturbing in this context of this conversation that you would just play something like that with video game music where you're playing again with real critters' welfare. So whatever that game was, whatever that experiment was, clearly it wasn't very nice to impose that on those little monkeys, was it? But you don't care. Torture anything. Everything is bullshit to be tortured by you. Because it's entertaining somehow. Fuck you.
Hey guys, what's up? This video is going to get into...
Oh, it makes what? More than one video smashed together? I mean, that's kind of lame. You could have had some kind of connecting thing. besides the monkeys in the cage.
Some of the profoundest questions of the meaning of life.
Oh, right. They're not profound. They're just so fucking obvious, and you're just in denial. You just don't want to pay any attention to being logical. We evolved on this planet. You don't want to believe that, then again, you're vomiting on truth. You're just saying, I don't care about evidence, I don't care about facts, I don't care about any of that shit. I want to play my agenda game on you. And I don't want to be restricted to having to deal with a real argument in the real world. I'm just going to argue fables to you and nonsense. And so you don't want to play a real game. What do you think happened here on planet Earth? I mean, you think it was all some sort of magical experience. Hundreds of millions of years of organisms being killed brutally. And for what? So they could try to get their genetic code up a little stupid muddy hill. And they didn't do it because they were smart. They did it because they were ignorant. The lions eat the lambs not because they're smart. It's because they don't understand that they're torturing it. And do you think if they knew they were torturing it, all the lions would be dumb enough to go ahead and do it anyway? If they knew that, oh yes, I just subjectively think my cubs are cuter than those lambs, and I understand that's just a subjective prejudice. And if we turn that around, if we turned around just the subjective reaction, the reflexive reaction, and I saw my kids as ugly, and the lambs as cute little cubs, my behavior would be exactly the opposite. And I'm just being controlled by silly subjective programming. You're going to talk that you're capable of having a profound conversation. You're profoundly delusional. A profound conversation has to start with facts. And you won't even go near a fact here. Anywhere near one.
Philosophy and praxis, etc. But it does so jumping off from some of the simplest and shallowest questions that are entertained by anti-natalists.
So again, like anti-natalists are entertaining questions. No, they're providing you with rational descriptions of reality. Evolution, crap, okay, consumption, reproduction, addiction, parasitism. That's the truth of it. That's the game we're in. That's the game above this wonderful fantasy park you're wanting to pay to get into, and you want the right to force people into. That's the name of the fun house. Crap. And you think you have a right to push people through those doors. And I say, you certainly don't have a right, and you don't have any rational argument to justify your arrogance and your obnoxiousness. You're one rude motherfucker. It's just a fact. An obnoxiously arrogant, rude fuck. To think you know best.
Including what I would call extremist, YouTube attention-seeking anti-natalists like inmendham.
Oh, right. Well, bossy! At least I don't have intro bullshit. Attention-seeking. While he's talking to his little egg.
Who I've crossed swords with in debate here on YouTube in the past.
You didn't have a sword, okay? Yeah, we crossed dicks and we found out you don't have one.
In the background, you can see and possibly hear my girlfriend Melissa, who is rolling up.
Who's a retard. Clearly, I mean, it's quite obviously she's retarded. She just... Yeah. Maybe. Sometimes. Yeah, you picked a real challenging thing to molest. Yeah, it was a real challenge. Real challenge.
The dough. You're making bread or something, huh, babe?
Huh, babe? Babe? She knows the word babe. Yeah, she knows about 7 words. Yeah.
Okay, pita bread today. All right, we're doing a lot of baking lately.
Oh, yeah, that's really cool. Oh, I'm just so fascinated. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not fascinated at all. Oh, my brain is saying, why are you doing this to my neurons? I don't even want to know the word pita bread exists. I just couldn't care the fuck less. Why did you even make my brain think it? You cunt.
And you can see the outline of my my robot friend, as I call it, stand mixer wheel, and some other kitchen equipment was among our top priorities.
Oh, God. I mean, like, the whole French name thing ain't gay enough. He has to throw in, look at my kitchen appliances. I have a Zuma. Or a room. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it goes stirry.
crazy when we first moved into this apartment. So, look, guys, this video began with a question from a supporter on Patreon. If you want to pay $1 a month, you can send me questions, and I'll send you replies.
Why would you do this $1 a month thing? I mean, it's just, why not just, you know, throw money in the toilet? I mean, really, what does PayPal take out of $1? 30 cents? And what does Patreon take it out of $1? Another 25 cents? So, yes, donate $1 so you can give 50 cents. It just makes perfectly sense to take your dollar and rip it in half and throw half of it in the toilet. Yeah, cool. Be smart like me. I encourage people to rip their money in half and throw half of it in the toilet. First, turn your money into quarters, and then it's much easier to throw half of it away. So turn it into quarters and then throw the quarters in your toilet. It's fun.
And if
Mini-Me does it all the time.
your questions or the discussion is intelligent enough, I'll make videos in response to your question just like this one. A guy wrote into me.
Oh, good. This is an answer to a question. Oh, wow. How cool is that?
Very, very sincerely overwrought over the ethical and philosophical issues raised by the anti-natalists. Now,
Overwrought. It's just amazing. Well, anyway, I mean, yeah, of course, when you're raised by a culture that keeps telling you it's worth it, the gold medal's worth it, everybody needs a gold medal. I mean, it doesn't matter what the preposterous thing is, you got to win a gold medal. So it doesn't matter how stupid it is. Like, how many times in a row can you hit yourself in the head with your fist in 1 minute? Like, how fast can you make your hand go up? Yeah, how fast can you make your hand go up and down? You can be the fastest masturbator or something. Yeah, that would be so cool, right? Gold medal for that. Yeah, just find something, try to do it really, really good so you can win the gold medal. And that means somebody else didn't win it. And he'll be all sad and go, I didn't win. And that's bad, but who cares? The game is about me winning. The game isn't about how stupid it is to sit there and say, let's just change the name of the asshole on top of the asshole pile. We have a big pile of shit. Let's just change the name. We have the wrong name is on the shit. So we have to put your name on the shit because the wrong name is on the pile of shit. The king of the shit is the wrong king of the shit. You need to be the king of the shit. And that's all that's taking place here. And somebody figures that out and they say, okay, yes, I understand. I've been programmed to climb a mountain of shit to do nothing but put a flag in it that sinks. I mean, yes, this is really a stupid program. Why am I playing this video game? King of the pile of shit. Why am I playing a video game that's nothing but king of the pile of shit? When you get to the top and you just sink into the pile of shit. I mean, it's just that stupid. And yes, maybe somebody will have a little bit of cognitive dissonance when they figure out that that's the game we're playing. And everybody's putting a quarter into this stupid, crazy video game like this makes sense. We should play this idiotic game. Teach your kids how to play King of the Pile of Shit. No. Suffocate your kids at the, don't wait too long to do it, okay? But yeah, do it.
Oh, Melissa in the background, she had a period of her life where those questions meant a lot to her.
Blah, 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 blah. Anecdotal, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I don't think Melissa had any of those thoughtful periods, frankly. She couldn't live with you if she did. Yeah. She obviously can't smell or think.
I think not these same philosophical questions, but the questions raised by child-free people and anti-natalist people on the internet.
Not exactly the same thing, but I don't want to go into those kind of minutiae. But I mean, you can make comparisons about how it's, a conservative isn't necessarily the same as a Republican even. They're really different things. Child-free is a different kind of idea. That has more to do with, I'm not an idiot. I'm not smart enough to know life is stupid, but I am smart enough to know kids are a pain in the ass, and I don't have any use for one. They're not going to do anything for me. I'm going to have to do a bunch of shit for them, and I don't know how I win in that game.
I mean, there's a reason why this is meaningful to millions of people. It raises questions of how should we live.
Yeah, what means something to people? Again, it's just so, again, the world is such a pile of shit. I mean, all these fake religious people, all these fake pretentious, I know best. I know how to fix the economy. I know how to find free energy. I know how to do all kinds of magical things because some retard on the internet who talks to an egg told me so. I mean, the world is just full of idiots, ill-informed, completely fantasy character believing in, fantasy physics, fantasy everything. You're all a bunch of fucking idiots. The human race is an idiot. And you're a very nice example of the idiots.
What does it mean to live a good life? How should we, as thinking, intelligent adults...
Like, again, you're just grabbing a title that I'm not sure you ever climbed the old thinking adult pile, so I don't think you're ready for that designation.
Resolve to spend the rest of our days, should we or should we not be, resolving to spend our time raising an infant, as opposed to doing the various positive things we do?
Well, again, this has nothing to do with any subject I'm terribly interested in about this whole thing of whether or not people should entertain themselves. The question is should you entertain yourself in a manner where you're subjecting risk to somebody else? If you want to entertain yourself by throwing bricks in the air and seeing if you can make them land on your head, then it seems to be your business. So if that's what you want to do with your time, is risk throwing bricks in the air that'll land on your own head, fine. If you're throwing bricks and they're going to land on your ignorant girlfriend's head, that might be questionable. But the idea of throwing bricks, okay, and letting them land on anyone's head, that's really none of your right, okay? You want to fuck your girlfriend, that might be your business, but you have no right to fuck me, bastard. And that's what my parents thought they had. They thought they had a right to fuck me. Well, no, they didn't, okay? They were full of shit, full of ego and bravado and nonsense that I'm going to play God and it'll all turn out wonderfully. Fuck you. That's stupid.
Is it, in fact, net positive or net negative? Is it something selfish that subtracts from the world?
It can't be net positive, as I've pointed out. There's absolutely no logical theory that gets you to a true positive. All you can do is undo negatives. So again, if you want to justify the existence of human beings, you have to explain how they fix something that would be broken if they didn't exist. You have to explain how they service the internet in some way, give it a pleasurable experience, or solve some sort of negative circumstance. We make the universe richer, and it lives in a better house with no leaky roof. We don't do any of that. We're not maintenance men. We're breakermen. We break things. We don't fix things. Our existence, we come into the world breaking, okay, broken, and all we do is spend the rest of our lives trying to glue ourselves back together, and that's it. We don't accomplish anything. We just bandage our injuries.
To decide to have your own child, or is it something positive that adds to the world? This is not a shallow or simple question, and it's something I know Melissa thought about a great deal before she fell in love with me and basically went baby crazy.
Well, yeah, she drank lead paint. Obviously. I mean, obviously, we should go find out where she lived because there's lead in the water, and she's fucking retarded.
Wait, sorry, I'm joking around.
Joking around. She's really a lesbian, Wink, wink. You know what that means? I am.
But her position on this is not shallow, but it is true that when she fell in love with me, she had a period of really being baby crazy, which was interesting to see. Where
yeah, it's bizarre, actually. The guy's lost his hair before he was like 16. Genetically, he's tubby and, has good teeth, but otherwise, everything else is a pile of shit. And I want to make more of those. So, again, you don't want to make the argument that women are kind of irrational. Well, frankly, there's lots of things that indicate women do have a bit of this irrationality going on. But I really don't want to beat up on women. I mean, they have an excuse in the sense of that, they come into the world even more fucked up than we do. I mean, the whole period thing.
I think hormones and the romantic instinct totally.
So again, hormones. Hormones come up with complex philosophical opinions. Now, hormones just create some sort of vague desire thing, and it's completely controllable. And we all know that. I mean, even a man's excitement is completely controllable. He knows, hey, I got a boner. That doesn't mean I can just rape anything. I mean, I know I have to control that and do it in the right places and all that kind of stuff. We even have a desire to piss or poo, and we'll hold it in, because we know we can control it. No big deal. So even a woman has, hormones. Oh, I need to cuddle. I need to cuddle. I'll go cuddle anything. I'll go impose my cuddle desire on anyone. They know they can't do that. They can just run up to people and cuddle, cuddle me, cuddle me. There are some women, I guess, who do that, but I just mean they know they can't just do that. So it's just about women who are rational and women who are irrational. And the ones who think I'm entitled to cuddle-y. I need a mini-me egg to cuddle.
Overwhelmed, what were I think genuinely several years of deep meditations and reflections as you were. Anyway.
Oh, whatever. I don't think that ever happened. I don't think you have any evidence your girlfriend ever did anything called thinking meditatively. Never happened. That's just a story you made up. Your girlfriend's obviously an idiot.
Look, I got a sincere question on Patreon from a guy who was really overwrought, not just about the anti-natalist critique.
He's French Canadian. Okay. About.
It's applied to individual people getting pregnant, having babies, those decisions. But in the broader ecological worldview, that sort of step one is the anti-natalists arguing that human beings do so much damage to the world that it would be better for the planet, in an abstract sense, if human beings didn't exist, or if there were fewer and fewer human beings, ultimately leading to the termination of the human species. That's one angle.
Yes, that's one argument. It's just so obvious. I mean, quite obviously, we're kind of on a lifeboat, and there's sort of like, yes, lifeboat life is a lot better with 13 people in the boat than 33 people in the boat. It's quite obvious we have lots of problems with too many people, too much poo. You can't even go swimming without swimming in people's poo. I mean, there's lots of obvious reasons, the whole global warming thing, but, which is also, the planet actually happens to be in a cold cycle, which is just kind of funny. So the two are fighting with each other. Mr. Freeze and Mr. fucking Hot Toe are both fighting with each other up there in the atmosphere. Hotfoot.
To it. But then I think the necessary kind of ethical and intellectual corollary of that.
Corollary. Ooh, there's a word I didn't have before. Let's see, will I keep it? Corollary. Yeah, fuck it. No, I'm not going to keep that one.
What inevitably follows from this perspective is the view that all life is similarly deeply flawed. So I've heard...
Well, how ridiculous that anyone would think that, a machine that manifests torture could in some way be flawed. Being torture is just part of good machine making, to make something that's torturable. Why would I ever make something that wasn't capable of being tortured? I mean, being capable of being tortured is just so cool. Isn't it obvious? To a sadist. Yes, that's it. To a sadist, it's obvious. To everyone else, it's like, what are you talking about? Why add torture if you don't need it? Why put it in there? Why make something that's torturable when you could make something not torturable? Yes, much better idea.
Inmendham, who's a YouTuber of this philosophical school of thought, stating in almost...
Well, actually, you didn't get to my philosophical state, which is the fact that I recognize, because I understand evolution, that this is a function of a biological problem of lack of function. That we're just a parasitic infestation on the chemical surface of Earth. And it's just a bunch of little chemical models, little chemical molecules having a competition with each other to take over the world. And that's all that's really happening here. It's just a bunch of little tiny molecules, a certain number, a few billion or trillion little design changes, and they're all struggling to be king of the world. And the trick is that you never can be king of the world, because as soon as you grow enough, then everybody makes you into food, and so it's really impossible to ever take over the world. So you're just constantly fight with each other about who's winning. Oh, we're winning over the dinosaurs, but maybe the dinosaurs will still have a comeback. That's all that's happening here, is our little varieties, the nature of the weapons we use. Like, for a few millennia we use swords, and then we use guns, and then we use sticks, and then we use rocks. We just come up with little different tools to fuck each other over. for the silly victory of saying, I am king of a pile of dead bodies. Way to go, butt brain.
Exactly these terms. He has said that it's a mistake for anti-natalists to argue that only human life is flawed and suffering and bad. It's a mistake, he says, to think that...
It's just being dumb. I mean, I'm just saying it's quite obvious that we don't do sentience exclusively, humans. Clearly, the capacity to be tortured spreads throughout the entire community of brain-abled organisms. It's been around a very long time, the capacity to feel. It came way before the capacity to think. It's just a fact, and that has an implication. Facts have implications. That's my theory.
Lions are doing it right, that sharks are doing it right, and that humans are doing it wrong. So the point is...
So I don't even know what he just said there. I never said anything about sharks doing anything right. I never said anything about nature being good. It's just awful and horrible, and it only happens because sharks are stupid. I'm saying if you give the shark a brain, enabled in terms of having vocabulary, going to high school, having some experiences in a more intellectual way, the shark is going to conclude that, man, my design sucks. I mean, I'm just a horrible built thing. I mean, it's just, this is disgusting. And maybe we would realize it if the first organism on Earth was a predator, or worse, really parasitic, like we actually had, proboscises off our faces to suck the blood of other organisms. What would that mean to us as once we got intelligence and we realized we're basically built to suck other things' blood, to take the value of their life and suck it? Would we have a little bit of dissonance? I think we would. I think we would feel pretty bad about that if it was more obvious.
Here, if you think that human beings, with their intellect and their neurosis and their agonizing over ethical and philosophical choices, if you think our lives are not...
Again, this agonizing over thinking, no one's doing any of that. So you people don't do any thinking. You don't take any responsibility. You don't give a fuck about the truth. You're just casual, reckless farters. You're just farters. You don't do anything else but fart. You just want to fart babies. You just fart everything. You're just lazy farters.
Worth living. How much less worthwhile is the endless toil, struggle, and aimless suffering of a lion in the wilderness, of a squirrel in the forest, of a shark in the ocean, of a penguin plodding around in circles on the ice shelf of Antarctica? So the same...
Yes. I mean, it's a real fact that these organisms spend most of their time in very difficult circumstances, eking out an existence, and then die. And then they have to do it all over again, For an octopus, right? 10,000 baby octopuses killed for the one octopus. So you have to die 10,000 times before you even get to have sex once. 10,000 times you get to struggle, going through that infancy thing. I obviously don't have a ton of memories of being an infant, but I do remember that it was always struggly. I mean, it wasn't just happy bliss, happy baby, happy. Those really aren't my memories, okay? I don't have these, I was so happy and happy, smiley, laugh. That really isn't the sense. The sense is that you gotta grind this thing out. You gotta fight to make your arms move right. You gotta fight to do everything. It's a struggle. And you're applauding that. And I think that's just so fucking sadistic. That's all I can say. You're psychotic. You're really sick. Sick in the head.
Fundamental pessimism, which I think in this video I'm going to argue very briefly, arises...
Whatever. Pessimism. So here we are talking about facts of evolution, the blueprint of the mechanism, the fact of how does evolution actually work, what is the design functions that we've been bestowed with, is our intelligence, should we be stupid enough to think our intelligence only has one purpose, and that is to make us a better feeding machine, make us more efficient than putting our fork in the food and getting it into our mouth. That's what our intelligence is for. Satisfy my desires. Satisfy my desires. That's all my intelligence is for. My intelligence can't do a little bit of smarter thinking and saying, what's the implication? When am I sticking my fork in? Did the thing I stuck my fork in be tortured and killed for no real good reason? Could I stick my fork in something else? Those are the questions you ask. But you selfish cunts can't ask any of those questions because you're so myopic and so stupid that you're just not smart enough.
From a very simple error, but the fundamental perspective or delusion that life itself cannot be justified because of the pleasure-pain calculus. So when you add up the suffering of the life of that penguin or the life of that lion, it's so much greater than the pleasure.
And again, clearly the pleasure is, again, being relieved from the negative, being relieved from the unsatisfied feelings, the cold weather, it's always the relief from the impairment, relief from the whip. The whip stopped. Oh, I'm so thankful. Let me suck your dick for not whipping me. And that's how foolish you people are. You're like Stockholm Syndrome. You're falling in love with your terrorist because he gave you an apple today and you really enjoyed it. And you were like, oh, that was so good compared to that gruel they were giving me every day. And so you're grateful for the lack of cancer, and now you're sucking its dick because you're so grateful it didn't torture you worse. And that's just so fucking transparently obvious that that's all you people can do, is be controlled by a circumstance emotionally. You can't actually think about it and see that that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm searching for relief. And why would I give that? Again, why would I shove a kid into a game of crap? Climb a crap hill, stick your crap flag, sink in the crap. Why would I do that to a child? It's stupid. It's cruel.
Therefore, it would be better if the penguin didn't exist, if the lion didn't exist, if all human life and human endeavor didn't exist. Now, in response to this Patreon supporter writing to me, and he was very sincere. He talked about his own.
It would be, yes. It would be. I can't even. You can't even calculate the value of not having World War IV and World War V. You can't even calculate the value of all that unnecessary suffering and torture and misery that's going to take place. It's so insane in its magnitude. All these deaths that won't have to happen. All of these diseases that won't have to be experienced. I mean, it's just an amazing pile of, oh, God, thank goodness.
Life and what he's been struggling with and what he's been thinking about in this respect. And this wasn't a kind of hypothetical debating club situation or something. This has really impacted his life and his perspective. I pointed out that the real moral judgment here is that life...
All right, so, I mean, it doesn't matter how many times. I guess I should put somehow next to my screen name, I should add... Don't use the word moral. It's just a silly, stupid word. It's just a word of dogma and pronouncements. It doesn't have anything to do with logic and reasoning. It's an ethical question. And it's a value question. It's a value equation. I mean, why play with a word like moral?
On the moon is better than life on Earth, by which I mean no life at all. I said I might call this philosophy not anti-natalism and not pessimism. It's might call lunarism, because ultimately the conclusion is that a lifeless rock circling around the sun...
Yes, that doesn't have torture on it is incredibly cool. No torture is an incredibly cool thing. So wherever no torture is, I'm pretty impressed. And as soon as I know torture somewhere, so let's say I do put people on this $7 watch, and there's a bunch of them on here, this whole pile here, and then I find out I'm responsible for them, okay, whether they exist or do not exist. I can snap a finger and they exist. I not snap a finger, they don't exist. And then I find out they don't all live in perfect bliss or anything, and some get really horribly tortured, really, really horribly tortured. And they don't like it, and they didn't want to do it, and they didn't ask to have it imposed on them. So the other players, are imposing torture on one of the players, really hard, nasty torture, concentration kind of camp torture. They're imposing it on that one player. And it's my decision whether this is a good game, whether I should accept that they're going to torture that one person. And I asked them, I said to them, hey, you guys, do you have any reason why I should think you should exist? And they say, because I'm really cool, and I'm art, That's why I do art. Forget it. They're done. Okay. Fuck it. Why should I let something be tortured for no good reason? You say you have a good reason to torture things. I'm asking you, what's your good reason? Your good reason is some kind of bullshit. I painted. I had expression. I expressed it. I have mannerisms. Mini-me. Your answer is vacant, meaningless, drivel. You have no right to torture. There's no right, okay, for us to play a game like somehow it's intrinsically functional because it exists. That's the only answer you have for nature. You're just saying, it exists. It must be good. I'm saying, why do you think it must be good? And you say, because it must be. That's not an answer. And then you say, must sound like an answer to me. Okay, well, yeah, it's not an answer, sorry. It must be is drivel, nonsense. So you don't have any explanation. You don't have any argument defending your right to torture something for no good reason. So until you come up with a good reason, you have no argument.
Is more meaningful than a rock on which there is life, ecology, forests, oceans, and the suffering that comes from it.
Again, meaning has nothing to do with this. It just has to do with value. It just has to do with a right to torture. That's all. Look, I'm making it simple for you. That's all that's happening here. You're claiming a right to impose torture. I'm claiming you have no such right. So that's that's our disagreement. You're saying there's a right to impose torture. There's a reason to endorse torture. We should put more quarters in the Earth Life video game. It's a good game. What's happening on the surface of Earth is a good game. It's worth putting quarters in. And I'm saying, no, it isn't. I'm going to stop the quarters. I'm going to do whatever I can to break the machine because it's not a good game. It's a very negative game. So your obligation is to explain why it's a positive game. I think I've done my job to explain why it's a negative game. Because it's torture for no good reason. None. Not one positive accomplishment. None.
That the existence of a nervous system and perceptual organs like eyes and ears that are capable of suffering is something so...
Well, eyes and ears aren't capable of suffering, so all the suffering happens in the brain. It doesn't happen in your finger.
terrible. It's such a mistake in this judgment that it's so wrong and so bad that the universe would be a better place. It would be morally, ethically, and sensually superior. I say sensually.
Yes, it would be rationally preferable not to put the poison apple in the pie. So unless you, and if you can't take the poison apple out of the pie, that is the forced suffering, the imposed suffering, then you don't have a right to serve the pie.
Because this comes down to sensations in a bizarre sense in terms of the pleasure pain calculus. It would be better if our solar system were just a series of lifeless asteroids or barren surfaces like the moon.
Yes, I mean, look, yes, that's the, again, you're not arguing the argument, you're just somehow saying, well, how can anybody possibly imagine questioning the value of this parasitic infection? I mean, look at all the pus. How could you say that pus isn't super cool? What do you mean? Look at all the art. Isn't that worth it? Can't you see the universe having an orgasm watching Earth life thing? Can't you see how it cures the universe's cancer? Can't you see the cure, the cancer cure? How can you deny the value of this wonderful treatment for the cancer that's killing the universe? I know that's happening, crazy person.
So this conversation with this guy proceeded further, and it again had a positive impact on him. He mentioned that another one of my philosophical discussions really...
Oh, he convinced somebody to be a selfish, sadistic cunt. Oh. Yeah, what's his IQ? The same as Mini-Me's? Or your girlfriend?
Impacted him positively, where I talk about the difference between perceiving the world in terms of minimizing your ecological impact, minimizing the negative impact, as opposed to maximizing your positive.
Yes, well, and obviously, like I said, just by crude matrices here, you're talking like I'm really winning. I'm making all these positive arguments, And clearly the ratings don't indicate that. But whatever. I mean, ratings are bullshit, generally speaking. All right, I think we're reaching the halfway point, and I'm getting tired, and this doesn't seem like it's going to go anywhere. So we'll have a part 2 sometime in the future. So let's do a little bit more, but I'm sure it's not going to be very interesting. I don't think he's ever going to get to the real subject, which is making a good argument why the parasitic infection called life, which is just a bunch of organisms killing each other, is a great game, and we need to support it.
Facts, which is, you know, a conceptual difference in how you think about your own life. May not be any actual difference in terms of what you do in your life, but it's a different way of drawing up the calculus. And as a part of this delusion stems out of starting from the deep-seated assumption that the meaning of life is pleasure, and that...
No, the meaning of life is preventing harm. That's the function for anything rational. The rational equation is, I know that torture is bad. I know that pain, in and of itself as an experience, is always bad. It's always bad if something has a nail in its eye. Yes, now if the nail's in Hitler's eye, it might be a good thing, but I'm just saying the idea of a nail in an eye, in itself, the experience of the pain Hitler is experiencing, it's always bad. It doesn't matter what brain is feeling pain. Pain is always a bad thing. That's the enemy. So I can know that as a certainty. That's a solid fact, because I know it from my own experience. Okay? That one I've known for every year of my existence. It's consistently always been true that obnoxious sensations absolutely suck, and it'd be really nice not to have any. That's a truth. So yeah, work towards that one for sure. The idea of this positive thing that you're saying exists, when I analyze I'm just saying honestly, when I analyze all the positives, what are they made out of? They're made out of my fear of a negative, my fear of humiliation, failure, poverty, my fear of negative conditions. And those are the things that make me feel good. Winning the lottery. Why do people feel good when they win the lottery? It's because their problems are solved. Not because they get some new thing. They get relief from their fetters. If they already had $10 million, they don't need, you know what I'm saying? And let's say they had a $10 million, 10 million times over. Let's say you had a goose that lays the golden egg, and you had 500 of them. Winning one more wouldn't mean anything to you. But if you have no gooses that lay the golden eggs, it's going to mean something to you, because these are problem solvers. The golden egg solves problems. So all you're saying is all you can see in this mathematics is there is no true positive. There's just the eliminations of negatives, and you're just playing some silly competitive game where you're saying, I win because I suffered less than you did. And that's all you're doing. And you think it's meritorious to be proud of that. And I think that's just insane. I feel good because you're ruined. Yeah, everything's great here because you're ruined and I'm not. Fuck you. All right, we'll play one more minute.
Suffering is something so terrible that it negates any possible or actual meaning in life.
Yes, it would for me. I'm just saying, if I knew my life was dependent, okay, on some little thing that had to be tortured, okay, some little mini-me, all right, was existing. A little me was existing. And he had to be tortured for my pleasure. He had to pay the price for it. My comforts were built out of him. He had to endure the cancer, and he had to endure the pain and the suffering. I would clearly know I don't want to do that. I don't want to parasitically feed off of his negatives. And clearly that's the world we live in. And if you can't understand that's how the game is being played, that you are torturing things for your immunity. And that's all it is. And you're telling me I'm delusional and irrational because I don't feel any need whatsoever to say, I want to do that. Let's do it over again. You know, I win, you lose. Let's keep doing that over and over again. You keep getting tortured, I win. Why would I do that? Why would a rational, decent, reasonable person do that? And the only way they could possibly do it is they have to think that that thing isn't them. They have to think it's not equal to them. It's a pen. It's not a real thing, having real feelings. See, you can torture things. You can rationalize it in your head. You can torture things for your benefit. And it's just totally obnoxiously, insanely ludicrous for me to think I have a right to do that. for a little bit of comfort. And you don't understand because you're stupid. I mean, if I could make you the victim, I'm sure you'd get it. If you were my little mini-me, you'd be saying to me, why are you doing this to me? Why are you perpetuating me in this horrible condition forever and ever and ever? For the frivolous shit you do. You're not worth it. You're not doing anything great. I'm sure you'd have a huge critique of my life and say, Gary, you suck. You're not cool at all. And you're torturing me so you can be totally uncool, unimpressive, totally unmeritorious in any way. Just an eater and a shitter and a shit talker and a shit thinker and a bullshitter. You're just a stupid fucking piece of crap. Why am I being tortured for your accomplishments, which are nothing? I'm sure that's the argument you would be making, jackass.
That simply the existence of suffering negates the existence of the whole ocean. That there's no point having an ocean with sharks and whales in it if there's going to be suffering, if those sharks are going to eat fish.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you can't make the, it's kind of obvious. You don't go to the gambling house just to lose money. So clearly the suffering is losing money, so you got to account for it. I threw a bunch of money overboard into the ocean. Now, what do I get back? And in my opinion, there's nothing rational you're getting back from the ocean. The ocean doesn't produce any value. It doesn't cure anything. It just creates tortured animals. It doesn't fix anything. It's just stupid. The value of the shark having fun swimming after fish, it's not enough of a value to justify the pain and suffering. Well, anyway, we've been over and over, so it's just getting redundant. So till next time and such and whatever. And, obviously this is a minor character in this argument, so it's not really a professional argument. Yeah, it's not a very professional argument. I love mini-me. It's not making an argument. So anyway, till the next time and such, so forth and whatnot. Hate this planet.